This is the S.J. Childs Show, hosted by S.J. Childs, streaming on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Find us on all social medias. The S.J. Childs Show, bringing value to families through education and resources. Check us out weekly, where we'll have new and exciting guests. Thanks so much for your support. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by S.J. Childs Books for Children. Visit sjchilds.org today to check out their special needs book collection. Teach inclusion and neurodiversity in this special 7-book collection. Get yours today. Sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah. Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs, and I'm so excited to have a great guest today, Corbie Mitleid. She is coming to us from New York. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I believe I did. And today's episode is sponsored by Water and Body Basics, which is here in West Valley City, Utah. You can go down there and get yourself some amazing water and a great water education at that. Drake can tell you all about the proper hydration and the correct way to stay hydrated. So without further ado, thank you so much, Corbie, for being here today.
It's a real pleasure. I'm delighted.
Thank you. And I'm thrilled to talk to you today about a subject that I haven't had on my show yet. And I'm excited to pursue many more conversations so that my listeners can really get a great concept of who I am as a host and my authenticity, so that when they come to my shows, that they know that they're getting real, raw information. And yeah, I think that that's so important to have in our world today.
Yes,
definitely. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your services, and introduce yourself.
Okay. That's what I call the 30-second elevator speech.
I love it.
I am a certified tarot master, psychic medium, channel, and author. I've been doing this work since 1973 when I was 18. I'm 66, so I know a little something. It is my full-time job. I've been on the road up to 45 weekends a year, coast to coast and into Canada. I'm one of Robert Schwartz's main channels in his book series on pre-birth planning and karma, your soul's plan, your soul's gift, and your soul's love. And I'm an author myself. Pretty busy.
I love that. That's amazing. And some incredible work that you've done. That book sounds really interesting, the one that you just spoke about. So I'm interested to hear more about that. What really led you were 18. How did you know that? Was it when you were a child? Did you kind of know that you were connected? When did that begin for you?
When I was 9, I read a book called The Witch Family by Eleanor Estes. And instead of thinking, ooh, that's scary, or ha, 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 I thought, and your point is, I knew there was magic in the world. I wanted to go find it. Fast forward to 1973, when I was a senior in high school, working part-time at Spencer Gifts. They had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it. Because we were all hippies then.
Yeah.
We had our bell bottoms and our fringe jacket and our deck. 5 years later, everybody else moved on to roller skates and disco balls. I was still reading the cards because they fascinated me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden in 1994, I could do hands-on healing and talk to dead people with no training. That's kind of when the universe handed me my draft notice and said, greetings, you're working for us.
Right.
So I did it part-time, meanwhile having a very checkered normal career: actress, author, inspirational speaker, legal assistant, video producer, writer for a famous graphic novel series, executive recruiter. But the psychic work was still on the side. 9/11, as we watched the towers burn, I looked at my husband and I said, I need to do the work full time. They need to know there are other answers out there. He said, I believe in you, go do it.
Yeah.
So for a year, I still worked 70 hours a week as an executive recruiter, did the psychic work evenings and weekends. Once I was sure that I could do it as a full-time career, said goodbye to corporate, and I've never looked back. Now I work 6 days a week, read about 1,000 people a year.
Oh, wow. That must be incredible. How do you keep up on your own self-care? Because that's a lot of energy and a lot of vibrations and frequencies to pull yourself into. How do you balance that?
Well, for one thing, the very famous medium John Holland reminds us, we're the tube it comes through. It ain't us.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I simply make myself available for whatever is needed, though
Yeah.
I do use my own life experience and psychology for a good bit of it.
Yeah.
Good psychic intuitive counseling, part of it is what I cheerfully call the wiki woo, and part of it is a deep compassion and understanding of how mankind works.
I love that. I love
Wednesdays generally are my days off. Believe it or not, this is still a day off for me because I'm not reading clients.
Oh,
Yes. The 45 weekends a year on the road was great in my 40s and 50s, but at 66, it's a little much.
Yeah.
The universe put a stop to it in 2019 with a pinched nerve herniated disc adventure. When I healed from that, the doctor said, you done. You are not doing multiple hours on the road, load in and load out. So I very quickly moved my business from on the road to online. And what happens? March 2020, lockdown starts the year of murder hornet bingo and hold my beer.
Exactly.
But because the universe had already had me move online, my business last year flowed.
Yeah.
There was no problem. So that's a really good example of when the universe throws you a curveball, don't complain. See where it's going to take you.
Yeah, I like
it
that.
might know better than you do.
Isn't that the truth? No, I that is so true in every part of everyone's life. They just it's your perspective, perception that you have to be able to take a lesson from that or repeat that lesson over again, right? So isn't that the truth? Was there any time that you I was a massage therapist for many years, and at the beginning of my practice I'm very empathetic, and so I was sometimes getting sick after massages. So I wish that I would have had a little bit of that pre-knowledge to not absorb so many things or try to take pain or things from people. And then I had to learn to myself kind of put on an armor for my own self and visually, and do it. So I find the growth and the process of that just so fascinating and so beautiful. And now I'm able to help others without taking on their things. But was that ever a challenge for you?
It's something that you teach yourself how to work.
Yeah.
For instance, I used to do 4-day shows in Kitchener, Ontario. I loved them. They were my favorite. But you'd load in at noon on Friday. You'd read 3 to 9 Friday, 10 to 9 Saturday and Sunday, and 10 to 6 on Monday because it was Labor Day weekend, for instance. In that amount of time, I would read 70 people and do 2 lectures.
Wow.
But the way I was able to do it is when you keep your ego out of the mix, when you are completely focused on your client and you're absolutely not censoring whatever spirit wants to say, as soon as they get up from their chair, you can do a system dump and the next person sits down and you're absolutely clear for them. And I don't even remember what I told this last person.
Wow, that's amazing.
It takes practice,
Yeah.
but it's the best way to read clearly for every single client you have.
Yeah. And, I kind of feel the same way as far as when I learn, right off the bat, when I'm learning to be a host, I have to learn to listen without thinking. And as a host, you want to be prepared. You want to have questions, if you will. No, I am not. I'm totally unscripted, as you can tell. But for me, if I do have that script in front of me or that thing I have to say, I lose connection. I can't follow the conversation. It's when I'm deep in that connection and conversation that everything flows. And just like you said, I can't remember sometimes, things that I said in other interviews or things until I rewatch them and I'm like, oh, right. But I really think it has so much to do with that vulnerability, if you will, of just giving yourself that your wholeness and yourself to be that channel, like you said.
Yes, you really have to put your ego aside. People very often tell me, well, when you channel, how do you know it isn't you? And the example I love to give is one of the reasons that I worked with Rob Schwartz is I am his past life specialist. And I also am able to channel people's higher selves, their souls for them to talk to.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, it's deep trance. My ego goes upstairs and reads a magazine.
Yeah.
So when the second book came out, I was in a chapter on miscarriage and abortion. And I'm reading this thing and I called Rob and I said, Rob, I couldn't have said that. That is absolutely not anything that would come out of this mouth. He said, do you want me to play the tape back? I said, no. So what the client's soul wanted them to know is 180 degrees away from how I view things.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're a good channel, when what comes out of your mouth isn't what you would say consciously.
I love that. I really do. And I agree with you. That is a show of good faith, if you will. Having that connection. When you brought up, when 9/11 happened, that's when you really knew. Was it the amount of feelings that you had from others who had passed? You hadn't had that
Carl
sense
and I watched the towers burn.
Yeah.
And there was this soundless slam in my chest and an instant knowing I was being called to service. No question. Don't argue. This is it.
Yeah. And I love how you followed that and listened to it innately, because that's the true authenticness of you and your services that you provide. And I mean, just the amounts of, I'm overwhelmed right now, just the amounts of hearts that families that you put at peace. I feel it. And it's just amazing. Sorry. I'm the
just
emotional
a tool,
one
honey.
on this on this side, right?
I take no credit for it.
Oh,
It's like I tell people I take my work very seriously, but me not so much.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those psychics who thinks her aura don't stink.
No. I think that that's really amazing about you. And I think that that's, it really goes to show like the trust that I already feel, between us, and how I really feel like you just can say what needs to be said, like you said, without your ego or without any other like ideas of what somebody might think about it or anything. And that's so powerful. That's what I hope to be when I grow up kind of idea. So I think that that's amazing. So now you're just doing 6 days a week. How many readings are you doing now? How many do you do in that time frame?
Well, I do so many different kinds of readings. My general readings, your everyday tour bus stuff, can go from a 5-minute burning question to an hour. And you can choose different subjects that you want to specialize in. I do other kinds of readings. There's one called Finding Your North Star, which is a reading that I do privately and then send you an MP3. And it uses 7 or 8 different methodologies to tell you how to focus. I do Your Sentence of Passion, which is how you find your rallying cry for the world. And I do soul plane readings, which is basically what I did for Rob Schwartz. But when people read Rob's books, what they don't understand is each chapter took 40 hours of psychic work. When I'm doing things on my own, I have to kind of truncate things because Rob helped a great deal. So Somebody comes to me with a life challenge. They have homework and they give me the information that Rob would have normally gotten. I then hit the desk at 6:30 in the morning and I am in deep trance meditation pretty much steadily until I talk to them at 8 o'clock at night, bringing down past lives, talking with their guides and their own soul to see how to work through this challenge. In the book, my dear friend Stacy Wells and I were the only ones in all three books. Stacy is the only one in the world who sees your actual pre-birth planning session.
Wow.
Okay? So she's what I call the brilliant technical surgeon.
Yeah.
I'm the priest, inspirer, storyteller. I'm the one that can pull down the past lives in great detail, help you talk to your soul, and then help you decide where you're going from here. Both are extremely valid. It's a matter of how you want to approach your big life challenge, whether it's parenting handicapped children, death of a loved one, alcoholism, physical illness, you name it.
Wow, absolutely. And I'm sure that you get just a million questions from all types of different challenges and supports and things like that. Maybe a few months ago, I had another interview that unfortunately the taping didn't go well as far as like technical difficulties. But in that he was also a medium and we spoke about suicide. And I know that that's a tough subject for people. And that's a subject that, a lot of people don't want to hear or don't want to talk, specifically about that, but it's real and it's, in our society. How do you help people and families who have had someone pass from suicide? And what are your beliefs of suicide and what happens to that soul when that occurs?
Suicide is not a guarantee, but in many lives, it's a possible. And in some souls, it's a recurring theme. The way I understand it, and I am not God,
No.
is when we cross over. Our life review is specifically reviewing our lives and feeling the happiness, the sadness, the grief, the pain, the wonder, as if it was our own with every encounter that we've done. So if you commit suicide, you are going to have to feel the pain, the grief, the anger, the ununderstanding, the guilt, as if it was your own emotion. Do we have to come back and do it again? You probably not as precisely, no. But yeah, when you don't learn something, you have to come down and learn it again.
Yeah.
I know that this soul is one that has struggled with suicide. 2 lives ago, I know I was responsible for my best friend's death in an accident. And I was so upset about it that I had a gun ready to go. And one of my other friends walked in, demanded the gun, and wouldn't give it back to me until I was sane again.
Yeah.
In this life, there's suicides in my family. So it's always been right here.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky on 2 factors. Number one, the pain of dying, you really don't want to go through. Thank you. I mean, I'm going to have to eventually, but I can move forward.
Yes.
And I know that I'd have to do it again. So when it gets really, really tough for me, I stay in the present moment. I keep myself as calm as possible. And we're not talking the razor blade is here, but when the world gets really hard for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think that we can be down here and alive and not hit one of those pits of despair. We're just human.
Yeah.
But the key is, do you stay in the pit or do you look up and you see that there is an edge to tell you that you can climb out? And that's what I always remember.
Definitely. No, I do agree with that. I think it's all, how your inner strength and kind of pulling yourself out of that and seeing the light, because so many people stay in those dark places and that's just, their lesson to learn. And I one of the things I've really been tuning into lately is the fact that like you had mentioned, as a family with kids with autism and even a husband, myself with autism, we often say, there's so much isolation. We're definitely like an island ourselves. And it can be sad and scary and a little bit fearful sometimes. At the same time, I've almost like grown stronger with the idea that the people around me who can't understand what I'm going through, it's just not their time or their path. And I think that took some time to, comprehend, to be graceful with people about. But I think it almost gave us like a freedom and an independence to think, okay, our lives aren't like our neighbors. We don't have, a specific bedtime and dinner times. And we run by biological clocks in our home. And that's not something the world is used to. They're used to their society clock, and we don't run on that. And so I do find myself like intimidated, if you will, by society sometimes in wanting to share my experiences on this clock that I'm living and how wonderful it is and freeing and, independent. At the same time, still a little bit afraid of the ideas of what they'll say or, how I'll be kind of looked at. But I think that this platform is giving me such a wonderful place to find my authenticity, to be authentic, to share my ideas. And they've worked positively for me. So I'd love to share with others in hopes that it could be the same for them.
Yes.
Definitely.
As long as the sharing is objective.
Yeah.
And it's not, I want to show you the right way to do it.
Yeah. Isn't that
Perfect.
the truth? That's where I find that I, was having some hard times with like family members not understanding autism and things like that. That's so hard sometimes because I've put so much work and effort into understanding it. There's just no way, unless you've been in my shoes, that you could have the same type of understanding or patience or, perspective that I have. And so I find that, a piece within that, knowing that this is where my journey is and wherever theirs is, I respect that. And I'll, like you said, objectively share that. And with some people, I won't, just because you and I both know that we don't want to push our ideas on people. Like you said, we want to share them. We want them to be open to receive them. And if they're not, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe they'll never be, and that's okay too.
It's the difference between sharing and proselytizing.
Yes. And that is such a hard thing in our world, isn't it? In our government, in our society, just as far as, follow these rules. This is the right thing to do. But we're all individuals. We all need to just be responsible and kind of, in our own selves. What's the word I'm looking for? Accountable for ourselves.
Yes,
definitely. Oh, I love that. Tell me a little bit about the books that you wrote. Let's talk about that so we can give you some book promotions.
Okay. The first one I wrote was actually a self-help book. I'll be honest, I will give $100 cold cash to any of your listeners that can raise their hand and say, I have never in my life read or bought a self-help book.
Yeah, right.
Not going to be one. I mean, we go into Barnes and Noble and we pick up the book and it's a great cover and a sexy title. And we flip through a few pages and it looks like maybe it works. And we get it home and then we read it. It's like, what do you mean I have to do yoga every morning at 3 a.m. and I can't eat foods with leptin in it? I have preschool kids and I'm a teacher myself in Milwaukee. Forget it.
Yeah.
And you stick the book on the shelf. Well, what this book is about, which is Clean Out Your Life Closet.
Oh, I love that.
It's the idea that you know better what you can do. And when you're in charge of your own changes, all possibilities are yours as well. So I go through 4 things: clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. But I don't tell you, do it the way I did it and all gets better. What do I know? I'm not you.
Yeah.
So each chapter is, here are some of the stupid things I did.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll give you a client story. And then I've got some suggestions. But the key is this. At the end of each chapter, you have what I call the adventure pages, where you answer questions, but you're not going to be able to answer them from the book. Here's an example for the chapter, Why Perfect Isn't What You Think It Is. Has perfect been a friend or foe in your life? Why? When did the search for perfection stop you from doing something important? How so? Think of a challenging situation and find 3 perfect things about it. How does your feeling about the situation change? Notice, you're not going to be able to go to a page and find that. That comes from your life experience.
Right. Yeah.
So if you read through the book and then you finish every chapter, by the end of the book, this is your personal manual. And through your own answers, designing your own toolbox, and discovering how to heal the old and create the new, you've written your own self-help book with me.
Yeah.
And your best friend could buy the book at the same time, and if she did it, she would end up really with a completely different book.
Yeah, of course.
So
I love that.
That was one I wrote for the clients. This one, now we're getting into the psychic stuff. The Psychic Yellow Brick Road.
Oh, I love that too.
Real wizards and avoid the flying monkeys. Because my philosophy is good psychic guidance is, all right, don't settle for a forgery.
Yes.
And this book was written because of an incident I saw almost 20 years ago now in Toronto. I was up there doing a very large show, like 250 booths. And there was a booth across the way that was one of the fake gypsies.
Oh.
You know, there are real gypsies in Roma,
sure,
but you put on the jingling jewelry and the long skirt and the scarf and the bad accent, and you can be a gypsy. So we saw this woman walking down the aisles, and she was looking around. And then out of the fake gypsy booth, someone comes and grabs her and says, you no need to pay $30, $40, $50. I read your palm for 10. Come. Drags the woman into the booth. 20 minutes later, we see the woman leaving, crying hysterically. So we all run over and say, what happened? And the gypsy told her that she had a family curse. How many in your family? 4, your dog. And that if she didn't burn 400 specially blessed candles at the Roman Catholic Church, which the gypsy would bless at only $1 a candle, her entire family was going to die in a car accident in 2 weeks. And she died. So this book is written, you may want to come to an intuitive for some guidance, but you don't want to learn to do it yourself, and that's fine. So this book teaches you what we can do, what we can't do, what questions are useful, which ones are not. If the psychic tries certain things, you get up and you run. Talks about spirit guides and angels and mediumship. And yes, there's one chapter on, can I learn to do what you do? Because of course you can. I'm not special. You can do what I do. But what I love is a lot of my fellow psychics have bought the book and read it, and they say, God, I wish that I had this when I'd started. It would have saved me so much grief. And I will share with you the chapter that everybody thinks is hilarious.
Yeah. And
it is called When Getting a Reading Won't Help.
Ooh.
And this is, face it, what in 95% of people come to us for romance. It's what we kid about saying, does Bruce love me?
Okay.
This is what happens a lot. Does Bruce think about me? No. Has he ever thought about me? Not the way you want. If I do such and such, will he think about me? No. Well, is he going to call soon? He isn't. Well, if he's not going to call soon, he's going to call later. And they are so desperate for a relationship that they keep beating on the psychic with, tweaking the questions, hoping the psychic will finally go, yes, yes, he loves you and he wants 7 babies with you, but he just doesn't know it yet. Oh, good. I thought so. Don't do this to us, please.
Yeah.
Please. And it's just, it's funny. I mean, I am funny. I've done stand-up comedy on
You are funny. I agree.
But and I don't care if you never come to me after you've read this. If this helps you get a good reading from any other psychic in the world, I did my job.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and the third book is actually a business book. Being on the road as much as I was, 45 weekends a year, 50,000 miles a year on a car, my nickname was the Travel Channel. And I'm just off. I'm done. I'm toast. But, 18 years of experience, I'll share it with other people. There are 9 billion people in the world. I can't read them all. So the third book is You've Got the Magic, Who Needs a Genie?
Oh.
And this is specifically if you are a reader, a vendor, a healer, and you're working in the holistic expo or spiritual expo venue, we have a certain way of doing business. But because I was in the corporate world for so long, and I can straddle what I call the twin mountains of WikiWoo and business.
Yeah.
I teach you everything that I know from the basics, like which shows to choose, how to dress, your booth, how to hire a front person, to all of the other stuff. And there are some things in there that I call Corbie Gets Candid. For instance, one of the things that I tell people they really do have to do is have a sign-in sheet and make sure that the person who is having the reading is the one that fills it out. Not that you're going to get a certain vibe from the handwriting. But when I was in London, Ontario, there was somebody who really didn't like my reading because I wasn't telling them all the things they wanted to hear. And the next day I found a death threat on my table.
Oh.
But we were able to match the handwriting with my sign-in sheet. I take them, I hand them to the show promoter. They talked to the police.
There you go.
So it's
just smart business.
That's right. Yep. We would love to think it's all love and light and glurpy purple, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so you have to use business sense. And a lot of people who are superb readers and healers don't know business. So that book is specifically for them. I find it ironic that it came out in March 2020.
Oh, right.
Everything
Isn't that the truth?
But now that people are coming back on board, now the book is being picked up.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Do you have a copy of the other book about the birth? The one
that's actually not my book.
Oh,
that
okay.
is by Robert Schwartz.
Okay, and so you just co-authored or did some work with that.
I was one of his 4 major channels.
I see. Oh, wonderful. We'll just have to look that one up.
Yep. As his past life specialist, you see, the universe uses what we're good at. They kind of rifle around in our file cabinets and say, we'll use this, this, this. For instance, a lot of people will use a pendulum. That's the crystal on a chain or a string for yeses or nos. I have a very slight benign tremor in one hand, so I couldn't trust that. But what's my background? Theater major at Brown University, and I acted in New York. Words are my drug of choice. I'm a writer.
Love it.
And I love history. My husband and I met, as a matter of fact, at a place called the Old Rhinebeck Aerodrome because both of us loved World War I aviation. And his line is, well, there was this gorgeous brunette who knew the difference between a Fokker DR1 and an F1 based on the wing skids. I had to marry her.
Yeah.
So with all of that together, that sets me up to do past lives in detail. And whereas another psychic might say, well, I know you're a female. I'm seeing you in a long skirt and a big hat. So I know this is old fashioned. I could see the same thing in my mind and go, okay, hobble skirt, picture hat, that kind of ostrich feather. You're standing in front of the Brandenburg Gate. This is Berlin in 1911. Which one's more useful?
Yeah, definitely.
So when I get past lives, I get them in detail. And people often say, why are past lives important? Sometimes we come in with reminders that we can't understand why. When I was lecturing at Lilydale, which is a very famous spiritualist community here in New York State, a woman raised her hand and she had butch short hair. And she said, why am I terrified to have wet hair in my face? I mean, one strand and I can't breathe. I said, wait a minute. And I went upstairs and I said, all right, it's a 5-syllable answer, Lusitania. In 1915, you were one of the passengers on the ship. And when it got torpedoed, you went over the side. You hadn't bobbed your hair yet. You still had that great Edwardian mass. So you had a lot more hair to take on water, and debris got caught and pulled you down and you drowned.
Yeah.
She looks at me, she says, is that why I can't stand the idea of going on a cruise? I said, probably.
Yeah.
But she hadn't told me that. But that's my talent. I can pull it down very, very quickly.
Yeah.
For something like that. So spirit will have you doing what you love, just in a metaphysical frame.
Yeah, definitely. I had past life reading done in, I'm trying to think of what year it was. It's like 1997, maybe around that time. Yep. it was incredible. And back then they still recorded out on cassette tape. So I still have my four,
you win.
Yes, my 4 cassette tapes still handy, and I can't play them because I don't have a cassette tape for things. So, but I remember specifically, just some of the things. And, I mean, that was so long ago. I haven't even thought about it till you and I are talking now. I haven't thought about that exact experience, and, just how much, I guess, knowledge I actually took with me. And yeah, it's amazing when you find those things out. And my husband and I are really connected, and we love to listen to readings. We love to meditate and be spiritual. Like I said, I'm a massage therapist, and also I'm not a Reiki master, but I love to do Reiki. My husband and I do it for each other. And it's great because he actually, when I met him, I was going through massage college, and, we would work on him and stuff, sometimes friends and things, but he actually knew, like, he has a knowing already I think that he was a Chinese yoga master back in a life or something, because he just really has a unique knowledge of acupressure points and just really interesting, abilities in that way. So I just love that. I love how it ties together. But we've been able to really use it to, educate our kids in a different way than we were raised, to bring them a different awareness. Our 9-year-old has a really great ability to go out in the world and discover things on her terms. We've never given her the idea that there is a specific deity or anything that she needs to be aware of. We've let her be completely unlittered of information in that regard, so that she can find her own path and her own light and things, something that we didn't have for ourselves. And now I see how great it can be for her. It's incredible. And we always joked that she was 5 going on 30 when she was sewing when she was 5 anyways. So yeah, little old soul, right? Oh, they're so great. And DJ, you had a chance to meet DJ right before we started the show. Previously I told you we had spoke to a medium months and months ago, and he and DJ had spoke, and DJ's working on his speaking, but he, in the past, when he was about maybe 7, he told us a lot about his previous life and his memory, having a photographic memory of, at first he just started talking about Fred and how Fred, lived, I want to say like 1941, or I think it was early. I think he passed away in the 40s and was born, in the early 1900s. But he would tell us about Fred and his kind of personality, and that, he had a wife and that he died in a fire. And so when we were in front of the psychic, we started talking about some of these things and bringing it up. And he was able to, kind of say, yes, that's what I'm getting as well. And so it really was great for us to get that unique understanding, because he's so young and because he, has autism and he has a hard time communicating. Sometimes you don't know what is, made up. He doesn't really make things up. He's extremely logical. So that's what really made us question, this is real. This is real what he is saying. Like, he remembers being in the womb. He remembers hearing voices and things. It's just, isn't that just incredible?
He's probably a crystal or an indigo child. Are you familiar with those ideas
Yes,
at all?
I absolutely believe so.
I explained that they are humanity 2.0.
Yes. Oh, so true.
Now, some of us, the way I describe it is indigos. Most people go A to B to C to D. They go A to Z to Green to Paris.
Yes.
Can't stand lines. Don't tell me what to do. Imaginary friends.
Yes.
Crystals are like the perfect Marin County kid. It's it's nice. Hi. People like me, we were indigo scouts. We came in early to see if humanity could handle.
Yeah.
And it's not handling it as well as we would like, but the indigos couldn't wait any longer. If mankind is going to survive, indigos and crystals have to come down to help redirect things.
Yeah. I always say that he's like, I believe it's evolution. His brain, my husband's brain, the way they think outside the box, the way they see things before anything exists.
Yes.
Isn't that just incredible? I just love that. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today and to talk to you. Is there a website and place that people can find you and get a hold of you?
Oh, they can't avoid me. Are you kidding?
You right?
Website, corbiemitleid.com. On Facebook, go to Fire Through Spirit. Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube are all Corbie Mitleid. YouTube is especially good because you're going to find guided meditations, ways to read tarot, talking about past lives, lots of interesting things that are there for you for exploration.
I love that. And I forgot, I wanted to talk about tarot. I totally, I was in depth in this. Right. We'll have to have you on again and do it again for sure. I'll make sure to have all of those links down in the description. We'll have text up on the screen after we edit. So you'll get all of that information. And just want to really thank you again today. I honor your time and your space to be here with me. So thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah. And I hope to stay in touch, and we'll let you know, when this is going to be airing, and we'll definitely, be in touch for sure. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Stay safe.
Thank you. Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word The Mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah.